Your sister's bringing her investment banker boyfriend. She doesn't want you there with your embarrassing welding job. I'm Isabella Thompson, 32, and this is how my family banned me from Thanksgiving. What they didn't know was that 5 days later, at the Wellington Charity Gala, my embarrassing career would expose a lie worth $10 million and destroy the very relationship they were so desperate to impress. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. It started 3 weeks before Thanksgiving when Madison called with her announcement. Madison had always been the golden child. While I spent my teens in shop class learning to weld, she collected academic trophies and sorority pins at Northwestern. Mom displayed her Dean's List certificates in the living room like religious artifacts. My welding certification? That lived in the garage, hidden behind Dad's old golf clubs. Isabella works with her hands, Mom would tell her book club friends, her voice dropping like she was confessing a family curse. Madison's in marketing at a Fortune 500 company. The truth was simpler. I loved creating things that lasted. While Madison collected designer bags, her latest was a $4,000 Bottega Veneta she couldn't actually afford. I collected welding certifications. AWS Certified Welding Inspector, Certified Welding Educator, Master Welder in Robotic Systems. We measured success differently. I'd built a good life. My apartment wasn't fancy, but it was mine. My truck might have been 10 years old, but it was paid off. And my work boots might have steel toes instead of red soles, but they'd helped me stand on my own 2 feet since I was 18. Madison called on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing blueprints at my desk. Yes, welders have desks too. So I have news, she said, her voice pitched high with excitement. Marcus and I are getting serious, like meeting the family serious. Marcus Wellington III. I'd heard the name for months now. Heir to Wellington Industries, Harvard MBA, the kind of man who probably had a yacht named after his mother. That's great, Maddie, I said, using her childhood nickname. Don't call me that. Her voice sharpened. Especially not at Thanksgiving. Actually, about that. The pause told me everything I needed to know. Here's the thing, Madison continued, her words tumbling out fast. Marcus comes from a very prestigious family. His father owns Wellington Industries. They're old money, Isabella. Like Mayflower old. And I told him you work in an office. I set down my pen. You lied about my job? I didn't lie, I just simplified. Look, you don't understand what it's like dating someone like Marcus. His ex-girlfriend was a federal judge's daughter. The one before that was a senator's niece. I can't have him meeting my sister, She caught herself. The what, Madison? The blue-collar embarrassment. The words hung between us like a toxic cloud. Through my office window, I could see my team working on the factory floor below. Good people. Skilled people. People Madison would apparently be mortified to acknowledge. So what are you asking me to do? Skip Thanksgiving this year. Please. I'll make it up to you at Christmas, I promise. I just need this first impression to be perfect. And Mom agrees with this? Madison's silence was answer enough. She's calling you after this, isn't she? Isabella, please. This could be it for me. The Wellington family. If Marcus proposes, I'll be set for life. Don't you want that for me? I wanted to ask if Marcus knew about her $30,000 in credit card debt or the MBA from Wharton she claimed to have but never finished. Instead, I said, I understand. You do? Oh, thank God, I knew you'd be reasonable. It's just one dinner. After she hung up, I opened my laptop and pulled up an email from my legal team. The subject line read, Wellington Industries contract renewal, urgent signature required. I smiled for the first time that day. Mom called exactly 17 minutes later. Isabella, honey, Madison told me you two talked. She told me I'm not welcome at Thanksgiving because my job embarrasses her. That's not... She didn't mean it like that. You know how sensitive Madison is about appearances, and the Wellingtons are very important people. More important than family? Mom sighed. Don't be dramatic. It's one dinner. Madison needs this to go perfectly. Marcus could be the one, and first impressions matter with these people. These people, I repeated. You mean the kind who judge someone for honest work? The kind who could set your sister up for life. Isabella, sometimes we make sacrifices for family. You're strong. You've always been the strong one. Madison needs this more than you need a turkey dinner. I thought about the email still open on my screen. Wellington Industries had been trying to reach me for weeks about the contract renewal. $50 million for exclusive rights to my company's welding automation technology. You're right, I said quietly. I understand perfectly. You've made your position clear. I knew you'd be reasonable. Your father and I will save you some leftovers. Don't bother. I hung up and forwarded the Wellington contract to my assistant with a note. Schedule the signing for after Thanksgiving, and prepare the blue folder, the one with the Wharton correspondence. 5 days later, they all showed up at my door. The knock came at 8 p.m., sharp and insistent. Through the peephole, I saw Madison in a Chanel dress I knew she couldn't afford, Marcus in an Armani suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, and Mom wearing her important occasions fur coat. I opened the door and waited. We need you at the Gala tomorrow, Madison said without preamble. She stood in my doorway like a vision from a luxury magazine. Chanel dress, Louboutin heels, diamonds that caught the hallway light. Marcus stood beside her, his Rolex glinting as he adjusted his cuffs. Mom clutched her Hermes bag like a shield. The Thanksgiving you banned me from was 5 days ago, I said. What gala? Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand. I'm Marcus Wellington. You must be Isabella. I've heard so much about you. No, he hadn't. That was the point. The Wellington Foundation Charity Gala, Madison explained, her smile tight. It's tomorrow night at the Four Seasons. Marcus's father expects to meet my whole family. I thought I was an embarrassment. Don't be petty, Mom interjected. This is important. Madison's eye twitched, her tell since childhood when she was desperate. Look, some of Dad's biggest investors will be there. They know he has 2 daughters. If you're not there, it'll raise questions. Questions like why you told everyone I work in an office? Marcus glanced at Madison, his brow furrowing slightly. You're in office administration, right? Madison mentioned you work in the corporate sector. I studied him, handsome in that prep school way, with eyes that seemed genuinely curious rather than cruel. He didn't know. Something like that, I said. We need you there, Madison repeated. But there are conditions. Of course there were. I'm listening. You sit at the back table. You don't approach Marcus's parents. You don't mention your job. And you wear something appropriate. She gestured at my jeans and PWI company t-shirt with visible disgust. I brought you options. Madison held up a garment bag like it was a peace offering. I brought 3 dresses, conservative, appropriate. Nothing that screams I work in a factory. How thoughtful. Just try them on. The navy one would work with your complexion. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Madison, maybe we should... We'll make a donation in your name, Madison interrupted. $500 to the charity. All you have to do is show up, smile, and blend in. Blend in, I repeated. Like furniture? Like family, Mom corrected, though we all knew what Madison meant. Tell them you work in our marketing department, Madison continued, already planning my cover story. If anyone asks for details, excuse yourself for the bathroom. Can you handle that? I looked at Marcus again. There was something in his expression, not cruelty or snobbery, but a quiet watchfulness, like he was solving a puzzle. What does your father's company do, Marcus? Industrial manufacturing, aerospace components mainly, some automotive. He paused. Why? Just curious about the family my sister's joining. Madison's hand tightened on his arm. We should go. The gala starts at 7 tomorrow. Cocktails at 6:30. Don't be late. I'll wear my own clothes, I said. Isabella. My own clothes, or I don't come. Madison's jaw clenched, but she needed me there more than she needed me in her approved wardrobe. Fine, but nothing with logos, nothing that looks industrial. I know how to dress for a gala, Madison. As they turned to leave, Marcus looked back. It was nice to finally meet you, Isabella. Finally. Interesting word choice. After they left, I called my assistant. Sarah, I need the blue folder ready for tomorrow night. Everything we discussed. I stood in my doorway watching them walk toward the elevator. Madison's heels clicked against the marble floor like a countdown. One more thing, I called out. They turned. Madison's face was already shifting to annoyance. I'll need the table number, so I can find my place. Table 47, she said. It's in the back, near the service entrance. You'll be with some of the foundation's smaller donors. The help, she meant. The obligation invites. Perfect, I said. I'll blend right in. Marcus frowned. Madison, table 47 is exactly where Isabella will be comfortable, Madison cut him off. Right, Isabella? I smiled. Absolutely. I know my place. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Mom tugged at Madison's arm, eager to leave before I changed my mind. Don't embarrass us, Madison said, her final warning delivered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. This night is important. More important than you know, I agreed. After they left, I walked to my home office and opened my laptop. 3 emails waited. One from Richard Wellington's executive assistant confirming his attendance tomorrow, one from my legal team about the contract signing scheduled for Monday, and one from a private investigator I'd hired 2 months ago when Madison first mentioned her Wharton MBA. I called Sarah again. Change of plans. Add the grandfather's will to the blue folder, the notarized copy with the integrity clause highlighted. The one that specifies moral turpitude? That's the one. And Sarah, wear your best dress tomorrow. You're coming as my +1. The gala was tomorrow. They wanted me to blend in, to be invisible, to play the shameful secret they could tuck away at table 47. They had no idea what was coming. Have you ever been told you're not good enough because of your job? That your honest work somehow makes you less than? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Because what happened next at that gala, when the truth finally came out about who really deserved a seat at the table, changed everything. Madison thought she could hide me in the back with the small donors. She had no idea that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one you never see coming. Let me tell you what happened when we arrived at the Four Seasons. The Wellington Foundation Gala was everything Madison had dreamed of. Bentleys and Rolls-Royces lined up at the Four Seasons entrance. Paparazzi flashbulbs caught women in gowns that cost more than teachers' salaries. The lobby sparkled with Waterford crystal chandeliers and conversations about stock portfolios. I valeted my Tesla, the one purchase I'd allowed myself after our first major contract. The attendant's eyes widened slightly. Not what he expected from someone headed to table 47. I'd chosen a navy Tom Ford suit. Clean lines, impeccable tailoring, understated elegance. The kind of outfit that whispered rather than shouted. Sarah met me at the entrance in her burgundy cocktail dress. Ready? She asked. Let's go blend in. The ballroom took my breath away. 500 guests mingled beneath chandeliers that threw rainbow prisms across silk-covered walls. Servers in white gloves circulated with champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's car payments. I spotted Madison immediately. She held court near the stage, her laugh tinkling like expensive crystal as she clutched Marcus's arm. Mom stood nearby in conversation with women who looked like they summered in the Hamptons. Isabella? I turned. A familiar face smiled at me. Robert Chen, CFO of Chen Manufacturing. I thought that was you, he said, shaking my hand warmly. I didn't know PWI was sponsoring a table tonight. Madison materialized beside us like smoke, her smile frozen. Isabella, you made it. Her eyes flicked to Robert. Mr. Chen, how lovely. I didn't realize you knew my sister. Your sister? Robert looked confused. Isabella and I have done business for years. PWI's automation systems revolutionized our production line. Madison's grip on my arm could have drawn blood. Excuse us. She dragged me toward the back of the ballroom. Table 47 sat in the ballroom's Siberia, tucked behind a pillar, steps from the kitchen door. The constant swing of servers passing with trays made conversation nearly impossible. My table mates included 2 retired teachers, a local librarian, and an elderly couple who'd won their tickets in a church raffle. "You look too professional for this table," the librarian whispered. "First time?" Something like that. Madison appeared with Mom in tow. "This is perfect. You can see the stage from here if you lean left." She glanced at Sarah. "I didn't know you were bringing someone." "This is Sarah, my assistant." "Assistant?" Mom frowned. "Since when do welders have assistants?" "Since always," I said mildly. Marcus approached, champagne flutes in hand. "Madison, my father's about to give his opening remarks." He nodded at me. "Isabella, would you like to move closer to the stage?" "She's fine here," Madison said quickly. "Aren't you, Isabella?" "Perfectly fine." Richard Wellington took the stage, and the room fell silent. Even from table 47, his presence commanded attention. Silver-haired, sharp-eyed, the kind of man who'd built an empire from steel and determination. "Welcome to the Wellington Foundation's 20th annual gala," he began. "Tonight we celebrate not just charitable giving, but the partnerships that make American industry great." Madison preened, already imagining herself as a Wellington wife. Mom snapped photos with her phone. "Before we begin dinner," Richard continued, "I want to acknowledge some special guests. Leaders in innovation who remind us that American manufacturing isn't just surviving, it's thriving." Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. Richard's eyes swept the room and landed for just a moment on table 47. Then Marcus stood up and pointed directly at me. But Marcus wasn't pointing at me. Not yet. He was guiding Madison toward the stage, his hand on her back as Richard announced, "I'd like to introduce my son Marcus and his lovely girlfriend, Madison Thompson." The spotlight found them instantly. Madison glowed under the attention, her smile camera-ready as she waved to the crowd. Mom nearly dropped her phone in excitement, fumbling to record. "Madison comes from an accomplished family," Marcus said into the microphone. "Her father runs a successful investment firm, and she herself has an MBA from Wharton." I felt Sarah stiffen beside me. We both knew the truth about that MBA. "Family is everything to the Wellingtons," Richard added. "Integrity, accomplishment, tradition. These are the values we seek in all our partnerships." Madison took the microphone with practiced ease. "The Thompson family has always valued excellence and prestige. My parents taught us that success comes from maintaining the highest standards in everything we do." The elderly couple at my table exchanged glances. The librarian leaned over. "Isn't she your sister?" "Apparently not tonight," I said. Madison continued her speech about family values and achievement, carefully editing out any mention of a sister. When Marcus whispered something in her ear, I could read his lips asking, "Where's your sister?" She simply smiled and redirected his attention to the crowd. "Before dinner is served," Richard announced, "we'll be recognizing our major donors and strategic partners. But first, please welcome the Thompson family to the stage." Mom practically ran up the steps. Madison's smile flickered as she realized the optics, a family of 2 when everyone knew there should be 3. "Is there another Thompson?" Richard asked, his keen eyes scanning the room. "Just us," Madison said quickly. "Just the family that matters." The words echoed through the ballroom. The moment they left the stage, Madison cornered me in the hallway outside the ballroom. Mom flanked her like a bodyguard. "You need to leave, now." "The dinner hasn't even started." "I don't care. Someone recognized you. Robert Chen knows about your little welding business. If Marcus's father finds out I lied." "You did lie." Madison's perfectly contoured face flushed. "This isn't about me. This is about you not belonging here. Look around, Isabella. These people run the world. You fix pipes. I don't fix pipes. I develop automated welding systems for aerospace manufacturing. Nobody cares, Madison's voice cracked. You're embarrassing us. Mom, tell her. Mom stepped forward, her fur coat making her look like an angry bear. Isabella, please. Security is one call away. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'd call security on your own daughter? To protect Madison's future? Yes. The honesty of it shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Sarah appeared in the doorway, holding the blue folder. Ma'am, they're about to start the donor recognition. Madison grabbed my wrist. Leave, now, or I'll tell everyone here that you crashed this event, that you're some stalker who's obsessed with me. Don't test me, Isabella. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Beneath the makeup and designer dress, she was terrified, not of me, but of the truth. After the announcement, I said quietly. What announcement? The one about Wellington Industries' new technology partner. Madison laughed, brittle and sharp. Right, like they'd partner with someone like you. From inside the ballroom, Richard Wellington's voice boomed. Now for our strategic partnership announcement. Madison dragged me back inside, determined to keep me hidden at table 47 until she could force me out. The lights dimmed as a massive screen descended behind Richard Wellington. The Wellington Industries logo gleamed in silver and blue. Tonight, I'm proud to announce a revolutionary partnership that will transform American manufacturing, Richard said. For the past 2 years, we've been working with a company that's pioneered automation technology that will save us millions while creating hundreds of jobs. Madison relaxed slightly, assuming this had nothing to do with us. She whispered to Marcus, After this, we'll get Isabella out quietly. The screen changed. A new logo appeared. Precision Welding Innovations. I heard Madison's sharp intake of breath. PWI started in a garage 7 years ago, Richard continued. Its founder believed that blue-collar innovation could compete with Silicon Valley. They were right. The librarian at my table gasped. PWI? That's the company that just won the National Innovation Award. Madison's hand found my arm again, nails digging in. That's not... You don't... Our $50 million contract with PWI will revolutionize our production line, Richard announced. Their CEO started as a welder, worked their way through technical school, and built an empire from the ground up. The American dream in action. The screen showed images of PWI's facilities, our patents, our employee count. Madison's face had gone pale beneath her foundation. That's why I'd like to invite PWI's CEO to join us on stage, Richard said, his eyes searching the crowd. Isabella Thompson, would you please come up? The spotlight operator, clearly briefed beforehand, found me immediately at table 47. 500 heads turned. The elderly couple at my table beamed. The librarian started clapping. Madison's grip on my arm had gone slack, her mouth open in shock. That's impossible, she whispered. Marcus stared at me, pieces clicking into place. Isabella Thompson, PWI. You're the Isabella Thompson? Isabella Thompson, CEO of Precision Welding Innovations, Richard repeated into the microphone. Please join us. The spotlight remained fixed on table 47. Madison stood frozen beside me, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and growing horror. Mom had dropped into a chair, clutching her pearls. This is a mistake, Madison hissed. Tell them it's a mistake. Would our technology partner please join us on stage? Richard's voice carried a note of confusion at the delay. I stood, smoothing my Tom Ford suit. Sarah handed me the blue folder with a small smile. You can't, Madison grabbed my wrist. This is my night, my future. Then you should have invited me to Thanksgiving. I walked through the ballroom, each step measured and calm. The crowd parted, murmuring. Robert Chen raised his champagne glass in salute. Other industry leaders I'd worked with nodded in recognition. There she is, someone whispered. The woman who revolutionized automated welding. Turned down a Boeing buyout last year, another added. Kept the company independent. Marcus intercepted me halfway to the stage. You're the CEO? The actual CEO? Your father's been trying to schedule this announcement for months, I said. I kept postponing. I wanted to wait until after Thanksgiving. His eyes flicked to Madison, who looked like she might faint. She said you worked in office administration. I do. I administrate my office, and 200 employees, and contracts worth $100 million. Marcus stepped aside, his expression unreadable. I climbed the stage stairs, each step feeling like vindication. Richard Wellington extended his hand, his grip firm and respectful. Isabella, finally. I was starting to think you were a ghost. Just someone who values privacy, I said. Well, not anymore. He turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Isabella Thompson. The applause was thunderous. I stood on that stage looking out at 500 faces and found Madison's instantly. She stood frozen by table 47, her carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. Thank you, Richard, I said, taking the microphone. And thank you all for being here tonight to support the Wellington Foundation. More applause. I waited for it to die down. PWI started because I believe that innovation doesn't require an ivory tower. It can come from a garage, from a workshop, from anyone willing to work with their hands and their mind. Richard nodded approvingly. Isabella's team has developed 14 patents in automated welding systems. Their technology will be integral to our next generation of aerospace components. Blue-collar work built this country, I continued, my eyes finding Madison again. There's no shame in honest labor. Every skyscraper, every bridge, every plane in the sky exists because someone knew how to weld, how to build, how to create with their hands. The elderly couple from my table were wiping their eyes. The librarian was recording on her phone. Marcus had moved to Madison's side, but she shrank away from him. Mom sat heavily in a chair, her face ashen. Richard, before we continue, I said, I should mention that my sister is here tonight. Madison Thompson, who I believe you've met. The spotlight swung to find Madison. She stood like a deer in headlights, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Family is important, I said, my voice carrying clearly, even when they don't invite you to Thanksgiving because your job embarrasses them. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Richard's eyes narrowed. Your sister? My younger sister, she's dating your son. Richard Wellington was many things, but slow wasn't one of them. His eyes moved from me to Madison to Marcus, calculating. The Madison Thompson who claimed to have an MBA from Wharton? He asked, his voice carrying through the microphone. I opened the blue folder. About that. Madison started moving toward the exit, but Marcus caught her arm. Where are you going? This is a setup, she said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. She's jealous. She's always been jealous. Of what? I asked into the microphone. Your $40,000 in credit card debt? Your fake MBA? Or the way you told our mother that my blue-collar job would embarrass you in front of the Wellingtons? Richard took the folder from my hands, his expression darkening as he read. This is correspondence from Wharton's registrar. Confirming that Madison Thompson never enrolled in their MBA program, I said. She attended 2 semesters of undergraduate business courses at a community college before dropping out. The crowd had gone silent. This wasn't the polite charity gala they'd expected. PWI believes in transparency, I continued. Our $50 million contract with Wellington Industries includes an integrity clause. Both parties agree that honesty is non-negotiable. Marcus released Madison's arm as if it burned. You never went to Wharton? I can explain, Madison started. The contract, Richard said slowly, states that any material misrepresentation by affiliated parties is grounds for immediate termination. I nodded. Clause 47(3). Your legal team insisted on it. Sarah had moved to the stage stairs, ready with additional documents if needed. But that's not the worst part, I said, pulling out another document. This is our grandfather's will. Madison's legs gave out. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. Madison was about to lose everything, not just Marcus, but millions in inheritance she'd been counting on. If you've ever watched someone's lies catch up with them in the most public way possible, you know what comes next is both satisfying and devastating. Like this video if you believe in accountability. Share it with someone who needs to hear that blue-collar work is just as valuable as any corner office. What happened next in that ballroom would make headlines in 3 business journals. But first, Madison had to face the truth about our grandfather's will. Our grandfather was a welder, I said, my voice steady through the microphone. He built his fortune from nothing, working on oil rigs, saving every penny. When he died, he left $10 million to be split between his grandchildren. Madison struggled to her feet, Marcus steadying her. Her perfectly contoured face had streaked with tears, mascara running in dark rivers. But there was a condition, I continued, holding up the notarized will. The integrity clause. Any grandchild found guilty of moral turpitude, fraud, deception, criminal activity, forfeits their share. That's not legally binding, Madison shouted. You can't prove. I can prove you lied about your education to the Wellington family. I can prove you've been misrepresenting yourself to secure this relationship. Your own social media posts claim degrees you don't have, jobs you never worked. Richard Wellington had pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. My legal team is reviewing this now. Mine already has, I said. Sarah? Sarah climbed the stage with another folder. The probate attorney confirmed it this afternoon. Fraud in pursuit of financial gain through marriage qualifies as moral turpitude under state law. Marcus stepped away from Madison entirely. You lied about everything? The integrity clause in our contract, Richard said slowly, understanding dawning, means if we proceed with any partnership connected to fraudulent parties, Wellington Industries would be liable for breach of ethics standards with your other partners, I confirmed. But that's only if you maintain the connection. Madison looked between Marcus and his father, panic clear in her eyes. This is my sister trying to destroy me because she's jealous. Jealous? I asked. I offered you a real job at PWI 2 years ago. You said you'd never work for a welder. Madison, I said, looking directly at her, tell everyone about your MBA from Wharton, the one you earned with honors. She straightened, defiance flickering in her eyes. I graduated in 2019, top of my class. What was your thesis topic? It was on integrated marketing strategies. Who was your advisor? I don't have to answer to you, sir. Richard held up his phone. My legal team just confirmed with Wharton. No Madison Thompson in their system, ever. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Phones appeared, people Googling, searching LinkedIn, verifying in real time. This is ridiculous, Mom stood up, her voice shrill. Madison made a small exaggeration. Everyone embellishes their resume. A small exaggeration? I pulled out another document. This is the background check Wellington Industries ran. Madison, you signed an affidavit stating all information was true. That's perjury. Marcus's face had gone stone cold. You signed legal documents? You lied under oath? I was going to tell you, Madison sobbed. After we were married, it doesn't change who I am. It changes everything, Marcus said quietly. My family's reputation is built on integrity. You've made me complicit in fraud. Richard stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. We need a brief recess. No, I said. Let's finish this publicly. The same way Madison publicly humiliated me for being a welder. The same way she banned me from Thanksgiving because my job embarrassed her. I turned to the crowd. How many of you started in blue-collar work? How many built your success with your hands before you built it with portfolios? Dozens of hands rose. Robert Chen stood up. I started as a machinist. Now I run a billion-dollar company. The dominoes fell fast. Someone in the crowd shouted, Her Instagram says she's a Harvard graduate too. Phones lit up across the ballroom as people fact-checked Madison's entire digital presence. Each lie uncovered triggered another gasp, Another murmur of disbelief. She claimed to intern at Goldman Sachs. Says here she speaks 4 languages. Lists herself as a published author. Marcus pulled out his own phone, scrolling through Madison's social media with growing horror. None of this is real? Our entire relationship is built on lies? The relationship is real, Madison pleaded, mascara streaming down her cheeks. My feelings are real. Your feelings? Marcus laughed bitterly. You told me your sister was an office administrator. She's a CEO. You said she was jealous of your success. She offered you a job. Mom tried one last defense. This is a family matter. It shouldn't be aired publicly. You're right, I said. It should have been handled at Thanksgiving. At the family dinner you banned me from. Richard Wellington had heard enough. Marcus, we're leaving. Dad, the contract will be reviewed by legal. He turned to me. Ms. Thompson, I apologize for this situation. PWI's technology stands on its own merit. We'll honor our agreement, pending review of the integrity clause. The integrity clause protects both parties, I said. PWI has nothing to hide. Madison made one last desperate play. Isabella, please, I'm your sister. Yes, I said, I'm your sister. The one whose job embarrassed you. The one you called a blue-collar embarrassment. The one you said didn't belong at your table. I gestured to table 47. Turns out that was the best seat in the house. Richard Wellington took the contract from my hands, his legal team gathering around him at the side of the stage. The entire ballroom watched as one of the city's most powerful men reviewed Clause 47.3. The integrity provision is clear, he announced. Any fraudulent representation by affiliated parties allows for immediate termination with full penalty. We're not affiliated, Madison said desperately. Marcus and I aren't married. You signed an affidavit as a potential family member when you attended the Wellington board dinner last month, Richard said. That creates legal affiliation. I hadn't known about that dinner, another family event I wasn't invited to. The penalty clause, Richard continued, requires the defaulting party to pay 20% of the contract value. $10 million, someone in the crowd whispered. Madison collapsed into a chair. I don't have $10 million. But PWI can terminate without penalty, Richard said, looking at me. It's your choice, Ms. Thompson. Every eye in the room focused on me. This was my moment, the power to destroy Wellington Industries' crucial contract, to cost them $50 million in technology they desperately needed. PWI honors its commitments, I said. We'll maintain the contract, with one modification. Name it. The Madison-Thompson affiliation is severed immediately. Any future connection between her and Wellington Industries voids our agreement. Marcus stepped forward. That won't be a problem. We're done. Madison reached for him. Marcus, please. You made me look like a fool, my family's reputation. But that wasn't the worst part for Madison, I said, pulling out the final document. This is the executor's letter regarding our grandfather's will. Sarah handed copies to Richard's legal team. The inheritance forfeiture is automatic upon proof of moral turpitude. Madison just lost $10 million. Grandfather's will was specific, I read from the document. He wrote, I built my fortune with honest work and calloused hands. Any grandchild who achieves success through deception dishonors my legacy and forfeits their inheritance. The probate attorney, who Sarah had invited as a precaution, stood up from table 12. I can confirm the will's authenticity and binding nature. The moral turpitude clause has been tested in court. It stands. Madison's sobs echoed through the silent ballroom. That money was mine. I was counting on it. To pay your debts? I asked. The $40,000 in credit cards? The loans you took out expecting to marry rich? Mom finally found her voice. Isabella, stop this. She's your sister. She stopped being my sister when she told me I wasn't good enough for her table. I turned to address the crowd one final time. My grandfather left us more than money. He left us values, hard work, integrity, pride in what we build with our own hands. Madison chose to abandon those values. This is the consequence. The executor stepped forward. Ms. Madison Thompson, you'll receive formal notice within 5 business days. The $10 million will revert to the estate's charitable trust. Unless, I said, she can prove she earned any degree she's claimed or held any job she's listed. Madison's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She had nothing. Richard Wellington returned to the microphone. I think we've had enough drama for one evening. But let me be clear. PWI remains our valued partner. Isabella Thompson represents everything Wellington Industries stands for: innovation, determination, and above all, integrity. The applause started slowly, then built to thunder. But I wasn't done yet. Madison's knees buckled. She went down hard, her designer dress pooling around her like spilled champagne. Marcus stepped back, letting her fall. Someone call a medic, Mom screamed, dropping beside Madison. She's not dying, Mom. She's just facing consequences. The crowd pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. Madison's collapse would be on social media within minutes, tagged with Wellington Foundation, spreading across the city's elite network. You've destroyed her, Mom snarled at me. Your own sister. She destroyed herself the moment she chose lies over truth. Madison stirred, mascara-streaked face turning up to Marcus. Please, I love you. You love my money, Marcus said coldly. My name, my family's status. You never loved me. Security appeared at Richard's signal, helping Madison to her feet. Her designer heels had broken in the fall. She stood barefoot on the stage, stripped of every pretense. Ms. Thompson needs to leave, Richard told security. Both Ms. Thompsons, Mom said, glaring at me. No, Richard corrected. Isabella Thompson is our honored guest. You and Madison are leaving. As security escorted them out, Madison turned back one last time. I'll sue you for this. I held up my phone. I've recorded every conversation we've had for the last 3 months. Every time you called me an embarrassment. Every lie you told. Want to go to court? She had nothing to say. The ballroom doors closed behind them with a definitive thud. The show was over, but the consequences were just beginning. Sarah appeared at my elbow with a glass of champagne. The executor confirmed the inheritance revocation is immediate. And Marcus? I looked across the room where Marcus stood with his father, their heads bent in serious conversation. An hour later, after the gala resumed with forced normalcy, Richard Wellington found me on the terrace. The city sparkled below us, all lights and possibility. Hell of a way to announce a partnership, he said. I apologize for the drama. Don't. He sipped his scotch. You exposed a fraud that could have damaged my family's reputation irreparably. If Marcus had married her. He seems like a good man. He deserved the truth. He's devastated. Not about losing Madison, but about being fooled. Richard studied me. You knew all along. I've known who Madison was since we were children, but I hoped she'd grown up. The background check we ran. We should have caught the education fraud. You checked Madison Thompson. She filed everything under Madison E. Thompson Wright, using our mother's maiden name, different enough to avoid basic searches. Richard shook his head. Clever, calculating. Desperate, I corrected. She was desperate to be something she wasn't. While you were content to be something extraordinary without fanfare. He pulled out his phone. The board just voted. We're not just maintaining the PWI contract, we're increasing our investment by $20 million. That's not necessary. It is. Your technology is revolutionary, but more than that, you represent what Wellington Industries needs, authenticity. He paused. We'd also like to offer you a seat on our advisory board. I'll consider it. Marcus wants to apologize for how Madison treated you. He has nothing to apologize for. He was deceived too. Richard extended his hand. To partnerships built on truth. We shook. Behind us, the ballroom continued its glittering party, but everything had changed. The blue-collar embarrassment had become the most powerful person in the room. 3 days later, Dad called. I'd been wondering when he'd surface from his careful neutrality. Your mother won't stop crying. She made her choice. Madison lost her job. The marketing firm found out about the fake MBA. They're considering pressing charges for resume fraud. Natural consequences, Dad sighed. I knew about your company, saw the article in Manufacturing Quarterly last year, recognized your photo. Why didn't you say anything? You asked me not to, remember? When you started PWI, you said you wanted to succeed or fail without the family name. He paused. I should have stood up for you at Thanksgiving. Yes, you should have. Your mother wants to reconcile. She says she's sorry. She's sorry Madison got caught. There's a difference. And Madison? Madison made her choices. She can live with them. Dad was quiet for a moment. She's applied for a receptionist job. Minimum wage. It's the only place that would interview her. Good. Honest work might teach her something. You're really going to let her lose the inheritance? I'm not letting her do anything. She forfeited it herself when she chose to build her life on lies. That's $10 million, Isabella. That's integrity, Dad. Something grandfather understood, even if the rest of you forgot. I heard Mom's voice in the background, shrill and demanding. Dad covered the phone, their muffled argument bleeding through. I have to go, he said finally. But Isabella, I'm proud of you. Your grandfather would be too. After he hung up, I blocked Mom's number, then Madison's. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Some tables weren't worth sitting at. Here's what Madison never understood. I didn't hide my success. I just didn't advertise it. PWI started in my garage 7 years ago with a single welding robot I'd rebuilt from salvage. While Madison was maxing out credit cards on designer bags, I was filing patents. While she was fabricating degrees, I was earning certifications. The company grew slowly, deliberately. First contract, $50,000. Second, $200,000. By year 3, we'd crossed $1 million in revenue. By year 5, $10 million. Now, with the Wellington contract, we'd hit $100 million valuation. 200 employees called me boss. 5 patents bore my name. 3 manufacturing plants used our technology. But at family dinners, I was still just Isabella the welder. The truth? I'd offered Madison a job 2 years ago when she was between opportunities, fired from another position for underperformance. Work for you? She'd laughed. I have an MBA from Wharton. No, you don't. Well, I will. Once I finish the online course. She never finished. Never started, actually. But the lie grew, morphed, became her reality. She told it so often she believed it herself. I kept building. She kept pretending. And when the Wellington opportunity arose, I knew our paths would finally collide. Marcus Wellington III, the prize Madison had hunted for months, was the son of my biggest potential client. The $50 million contract had been in negotiation for 18 months. Richard Wellington was thorough, careful, demanding. He'd visited our facilities 3 times, always unannounced, always impressed. You could have been anything, he'd said once. Why welding? Because welding is honest. The joint holds or it doesn't. No lies, no pretense, just truth in metal and fire. 6 months after the Gala, PWI hit the $100 million valuation. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature, The Welder Who Built an Empire. They used a photo of me in my safety gear, torch in hand, standing beside our latest automated system. Madison saw it. I know because she sent one last email before I blocked that address, too. Congratulations on your success. I'm working as a receptionist now, starting over. Maybe one day you'll forgive me. I didn't reply. Forgiveness and reconciliation aren't the same thing. Marcus Wellington and I crossed paths at an industry conference. He looked good, lighter somehow, freed from Madison's manufactured world. I'm dating someone new, he offered. A teacher. She makes $40,000 a year and she's the most honest person I've ever met. Good for you. My father speaks highly of you. The PWI integration has exceeded projections. It usually does when both parties deal in truth. Mom tried reaching out through Dad, through lawyers, through mutual acquaintances. Each attempt met the same response: no contact until she could acknowledge what she'd done. Not what Madison had done, what she had done. Choosing one daughter over another, valuing appearance over authenticity. She never could admit it. The 10 million from Madison's forfeited inheritance went to the grandfather's charitable trust. They used it to fund trade schools, welding programs, apprenticeships for kids who worked with their hands. Grandfather would have loved that. I was named Innovator of the Year by the National Manufacturing Association. At the ceremony, I wore my Navy Tom Ford suit and my grandfather's welding ring. In my speech, I talked about the dignity of blue-collar work, the beauty of building something real. Standing in my office now, looking out at the factory floor where 24 welders practice their craft, I think about that Thanksgiving I wasn't invited to, the table I wasn't good enough for, the family that saw my work as an embarrassment. Here's what I learned: your worth isn't determined by their approval. Some people will never see your value because they're too blinded by their own insecurities. Madison needed me to be less than her to feel like she was enough. Mom needed us to fit her narrow definition of success. They couldn't see that success isn't about the clothes you wear or the lies you tell. It's about what you build when no one's watching. Every day, I train new welders, kids from backgrounds like mine, who've been told that working with their hands makes them less than. I show them the contracts, the patents, the empire built from sparks and steel. But what about your family? One asked recently. Do you miss them? I miss who I thought they were, but I don't miss who they actually are. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. Some tables aren't worth sitting at, some people aren't worth impressing. And family? Family isn't just blood, it's the people who see your worth even when you're covered in welding burns and machine oil. Madison still works as a receptionist. Last I heard, she was taking night classes, real ones this time. Maybe she'll build something authentic. Maybe she won't. That's her journey now, not mine. As for me, I'm exactly where I belong, in my workshop, building something real, surrounded by people who value truth over pretense. Your job doesn't define your worth, your integrity does. And that's worth more than any Thanksgiving invitation. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't measured by someone else's approval. Subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and setting boundaries with toxic family members. Have you ever been excluded or looked down on because of your job? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's celebrate the dignity of all honest work. And remember, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building something so undeniably real that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Thank you for listening to my story.